The day I opened my fridge and saw those labels, I felt like a stranger in my own home. "Don't touch what you didn't pay for, Boomer." The words were scribbled on masking tape stuck to a shelf in the fridge. I stood there, confused, angry, and more than a little heartbroken. I turned around and called out, "Cynthia, what the hell is this?" She didn't even get up from the couch. "It's just food, Dad. Relax. Mark bought those groceries." I blinked. "So now I need permission to eat in my own house." Mark walked into the kitchen just then, smirking. "Look, man, we're all adults here. Just trying to keep things fair, that's all." Fair. I let them into my home. I fed them, gave them a place to sleep, no rent, no questions. And now I had to ask permission to touch the milk. The worst part, Cynthia just rolled her eyes. "Grow up, Dad. It's his house now, too." That sentence hit me like a hammer. Let me back up. I'm a 61-year-old widower living in Springfield, Missouri. I lost my wife, Lila, 3 years ago. Cancer. Quick and cruel. She was gone 4 months after the diagnosis. She was my world, smart, kind, and tougher than anyone I've ever known. She ran this house like a captain runs a ship, and after she passed, the silence became unbearable. I kept busy, ran my small auto repair shop on the south side. Business slowed down, but it was enough to keep the lights on. No fancy stuff, just a quiet, simple life. My daughter Cynthia is all I've got left. She's 29 now, headstrong, sharp-tongued, but always had a good heart, at least I thought so. She moved out at 22, got her marketing degree, and married Mark 2 years ago. From the beginning, I had a bad feeling about Mark. He talked big, startups, crypto, passive income, but never held a steady job. Always looked like he was chasing some dream that never landed. I kept quiet for Cynthia's sake. Didn't want to lose her over a fight. That was mistake number 2. Back in February, she called me out of the blue. "Dad, can we crash at your place for a bit? Just a few weeks. We're behind on rent." I asked what happened. Turns out Mark dumped most of their savings into some new cryptocurrency he found on Reddit. It tanked. They couldn't make rent and had until the weekend to leave. I didn't hesitate. Of course. Come home. They showed up Sunday with a truck full of junk. Cynthia looked a little embarrassed. Mark. He strutted in like he was checking into a 5-star hotel. The first few days were quiet. Mark mostly stayed in their room, glued to his laptop or Xbox. Never lifted a finger, no trash, no groceries, no mowing the lawn. I told myself maybe he was just down about the money. But it got worse. Cynthia cooked sometimes, cleaned here and there, but little things started to feel off. My tools were moved around in the garage. My laptop was logged into. One day, I noticed the Wi-Fi name was changed to Mark's own. By week 3, he was walking around the house in his boxers, eating chips on my couch, shouting at some YouTube video about alpha energy or something. When I walked in, he didn't even pause. I tried to stay calm. For Cynthia, but then the fridge thing happened. And the boomer comment. That night, I lay awake for hours, thinking. The next day, I went to buy groceries. My card got declined. Confused, I checked my bank account. Frozen. Turns out Mark had used my laptop. My bank was still logged in. Somehow, he messed with it. I called the bank, and they confirmed someone had triggered fraud protocols by attempting odd transfers from my account. I confronted him that evening. "You froze my account," I said flatly. Mark raised his hands. "I was just trying to set up autopay for rent." "Chill. There is no rent," I snapped. "And this is my house." He shrugged. "Feels like our house now." I turned to Cynthia, expecting her to say something. Anything. But all she said was, "You're overreacting again." I was done. The next morning, I changed the locks while they were out. Left their things boxed on the porch with a note. "I gave you shelter. You gave me disrespect. You want a house of your own. Build it. This one belongs to me." It's been quiet again. Painfully so. But I'd rather be alone than disrespected under my own roof. Let me tell you, sometimes, the hardest lesson is learning that love isn't always returned. Even by your own blood. I stopped asking Mark if he was applying for jobs. The last time I tried, he gave me that same smug look. You looking for jobs today? I asked casually, wiping grease off my hands after a long day at the shop. Mark didn't even look up from his phone. I'm building a brand. I raised an eyebrow. And what exactly does that mean? He shrugged. It means you wouldn't get it. I did get it. He was doing nothing. Absolutely nothing. 3 months into this mess, I came home after 10 hours on my feet. My back was killing me. All I wanted was something cold to drink. I walked into the kitchen, opened the fridge, and nearly dropped the soda I reached for. There were laminated labels on every shelf. Mark's drinks do not touch. Protein shelf paid for by Mark. And the kicker, don't touch what you didn't pay for, boomer. I stared at that last one like it was a slap in the face. I bought that fridge. I paid the electric bill. I paid for nearly all the groceries in it. I stood there shaking with the soda in my hand. I stormed into the living room. Mark, I barked. What is this labeling nonsense in the fridge? He looked up, totally unfazed. Just setting boundaries, man. We're all adults here. You gotta respect the space. I turned to Cynthia, hoping she'd say something, anything. But she rolled her eyes instead. Grow up, Dad. It's his house, too, now. That sentence nearly broke me. The very next morning, I stopped for gas before heading to the shop. My debit card declined. I tried again, same thing. I called the bank. The lady on the line said my account was locked for suspicious activity. I drove down to the branch, confused and worried. The bank manager took me into his office. Mr. Marston, we had a call from you last week requesting to add a co-signer to your account. A woman named Cynthia Shaw. I felt my heart drop. I never made that call. I never added anyone. She's your daughter, yes? He asked gently. Yes, I said quietly. But I never gave her permission. She must have had my old passwords. She knew my social security number, my birth date, things I trusted her with. Can we reverse this? I asked. We'll need to open an investigation. It'll take some time, he said. That night, I came home shaking. I walked straight into the kitchen where Cynthia was scrolling through her phone. Did you mess with my bank account? I asked. She didn't even blink. Yeah, I needed to. We're behind. Behind on what? I asked, voice rising. You two don't pay a single bill in this house. She slammed her phone on the table. You don't get it, Dad. Everything's stacked against us. Rent, bills, jobs, it's not like when you were young. You've got all this money sitting around while we're drowning. Mark leaned against the doorframe, arms folded, watching like he was proud of her. Gotta adapt, man. It's survival, he said with that annoying smirk. I turned away and called Ron, my old buddy who used to be a cop. He now runs a private security business. Get cameras in the house, he told me. Don't say a word to them. We'll see what they're really up to. The next day, Ron came over while they were out. He installed small cameras, inside vents, smoke detectors, even one in a desk lamp. All legal. It was my house, after all. Over the next few weeks, I kept quiet and let them think they had me fooled. But the cameras saw everything. Mark using my laptop late at night, logging into accounts. Cynthia talking on the phone about transferring funds before he notices. Mark laughing with his friends on Discord. He's so clueless. We're bleeding the old man dry, bro. They even opened my mail, took pictures of my tax returns, and rifled through my old documents. I sent everything to Ron. He gave it to a detective he trusted. A case was opened, quietly. For the next 2 weeks, I pretended not to care. I smiled more. I offered to cook dinner. I even joked with Mark about his brand. But inside, I was waiting. Waiting for the right moment. I started playing it cool. I made pancakes one morning like nothing had happened, sat on the couch and watched a movie with them. Cynthia laughed like old times. Mark just nodded, still smug. I even asked how his brand was doing. He said, big things coming. That same afternoon, I dropped the bomb. I'm selling the house, I said, flipping through some papers at the dining table. It's too big for me now. Time to downsize. Cynthia looked up like she'd been slapped. Wait, what? You can't do that. Mark frowned. Where are we supposed to go? I shrugged. I don't know. That's something you'll have to figure out. Later that day, I drove straight to the courthouse and filed an eviction notice. They had no lease, didn't pay rent, the law was clear. They had 30 days to leave. When I got home, Mark tried to act tough. He met me at the door, arms crossed. "You're making a big mistake," he said. I smiled. "You have no idea." From that moment, the house changed. Mark stopped pretending. He slammed doors, blasted music, left food wrappers on the floor. Cynthia barely spoke. When she did, it was ice cold. "You're ruining everything," she said one night as I washed dishes. We were finally getting ahead. Getting ahead by stealing from me. I asked quietly. She didn't answer. A week later, I returned from the grocery store and my key didn't fit. They changed the locks. I stood there on the porch, holding 2 bags of groceries in the rain. I tried calling Cynthia, no answer. I called a locksmith. The young man who changed the locks said he was the homeowner, he told me. I had to show proof of ownership, ID, and utility bills to get back in. When I finally stepped inside, Mark was on the couch, grinning like it was all a joke. "Just trying to keep the place secure," he said. "Lots of break-ins in this area. You're playing a dangerous game," I warned him. He shrugged. "It's not a game if I'm winning." I called Ron. We went deeper. He ran a background check on Mark. What he found made my stomach twist. Mark had 2 prior charges for identity theft, one in Oklahoma, one in Georgia. Both dismissed. He'd used 3 different names on old job applications. He even tried to take out a small business loan using my name. I showed the documents to Cynthia the next day. Her face turned red. "Why are you spying on us?" she screamed. "You're destroying your own family." "I'm protecting what's left of it," I said. That night, I locked my bedroom door for the first time in 30 years. 2 days later, I got a call from Detective New, Ron's contact. "We received an anonymous tip," he said. "Someone in your house is laundering money through fake online businesses." "Let me guess," I said. "The tip came from Mark." "Probably. But he just made it easier for us." We dug into his online activity. Mark had used my IP address to set up 3 fake websites. Shell companies. He borrowed money from friends, strangers, collected payments and disappeared. We finally had enough to file charges. All we needed was the right moment. A week before the eviction date, I came back from church. The house was dark. I stepped inside and froze. The living room window was shattered from the inside. Glass scattered across the floor. Drawers were pulled open, couch cushions slashed. Furniture knocked over. They trashed the place. The house was a disaster. My office, trashed. Papers everywhere, drawers yanked out, even my laptop was smashed. Cynthia was at the kitchen table, head in her hands, crying. Mark paced the hallway like a wild animal, his footsteps echoing like thunder. "They froze everything," he shouted, face red with rage. "My bank accounts, my crypto wallet, everything." I didn't flinch. "Because none of it was ever yours," I said quietly. His eyes locked on mine. "You nosy old bastard." He charged at me. For a second, I thought he might actually hit me. Cynthia screamed, "Mark, stop." But before he could touch me, the front windows lit up in blue and red. Police sirens. Flashing lights. Ron had called in backup and waited outside, just in case this happened. 2 officers entered the house with calm authority. "Mark Harper." One asked. "You're under arrest for identity theft, wire fraud, and forgery." They didn't wait for a response. They cuffed him right there on my living room floor. He kept yelling like a madman. "You think this is over? You're nothing, old man. A dinosaur." They dragged him out, still shouting. Cynthia collapsed into the kitchen chair, staring at nothing. She didn't say a word. But I knew, the worst wasn't over. Not for her. Not for me. The house felt poisoned even with Mark gone. Every creak in the floor, every shadow on the wall, it all reminded me of betrayal. I thought Cynthia would leave the next morning. She didn't. Instead, she stayed in the master bedroom, my bedroom, barely eating, barely sleeping, just walking around like a ghost. I let her be for a few days. I didn't have the energy to fight anymore. But on the 3rd morning, I found her sitting alone in the kitchen again, wrapped in one of her mother's old shawls. Her eyes were bloodshot, her hair uncombed, We need to talk, I said gently, sliding into the chair across from her. You have to tell me the truth now. What else don't I know? She wiped her face and whispered, I didn't know half of what Mark was doing. I swear, I wanted to believe her. But then she added something that made my stomach twist. He said he'd help fix your will. I blinked. What will? She hesitated. The one you updated last summer. He promised me you were just making sure I'd be taken care of. My chest tightened. I never updated my will last summer, I said. I went straight to the hallway closet. My safe was there. That's where I kept the original will, everything meant to go to Cynthia, the house, the shop, my savings. When I opened the safe, my heart sank. The real will was gone. In its place was a manila folder, full of cheap-looking photocopies. At the bottom of one page, my signature stared back at me, but it wasn't my handwriting. Mark had forged my will. I took the documents to Ron. He contacted a handwriting expert immediately. Within 48 hours, it was confirmed fake. We turned everything over to the police. That case wasn't closed, it was just getting started. Later that week, around midnight, Cynthia knocked on my bedroom door. She stepped in quietly and sat on the edge of the bed, just like she used to when she was a child and had bad dreams. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I didn't know he was doing that, she said. He told me you changed the will because you didn't trust me anymore. That you were leaving everything to a church. Why would you believe that? I asked. She looked away, ashamed. Because I thought, maybe you had stopped trusting me. I didn't respond. The silence between us said enough. Then she whispered something that made the air go cold. I think I'm pregnant. I didn't react. Didn't move. Didn't hug her. Didn't say congratulations. I only asked, are you sure it's his? She nodded slowly. Have you seen a doctor? I asked. No, she whispered. Cynthia sat across from me, shoulders hunched, eyes begging for some kind of comfort. I looked at her for a long moment, then said quietly, you're not staying here. Not like this. She blinked, stunned. What do you mean? You need to get a job, find a place, and start your life over the right way, I said. I gave you 3 months. You and Mark almost destroyed me. Tears filled her eyes. But I don't have anywhere to go. I didn't either, once, I replied. But I built something. You can too. I stood up, walked into the living room, and shut off the lights. It was over. The next morning, I opened my door to find a sheriff's deputy standing on the porch. He held a folded paper in his hand. Mr. Marston, he asked. Yes, you've been served. I stared at the paper, confused. It's a notice of claim. Your daughter is suing you for financial abuse. I blinked. What? She says you pressured her into signing over funds, withheld property that belonged to her husband, and created a hostile living environment. I just shook my head. You've got to be kidding me. Just doing my job, sir. You'll need to appear in court. After that day, Cynthia stopped pretending. No more tears. No more quiet guilt. She moved through the house like she owned it. Cold. Distant. Then one night, I found the pregnancy test in the bathroom trash. Negative. She had lied about that too. The lawsuit moved fast. Her lawyer, a smug man named McClure, filed for emergency access to all my financial records. Claimed I was controlling, abusive, and too old to manage my estate. It was the first time in my life I had to hire a lawyer to defend myself against my own daughter. Weeks passed. Then, one night, I woke to the sharp, awful smell of smoke. I jumped out of bed and ran to the kitchen. A towel had caught fire on the stove burner. The flames had died down, but smoke curled through the air like a warning. Cynthia sat in the living room, casually scrolling her phone. Are you trying to burn the house down? I shouted. She didn't even flinch. Just looked up slowly and said, you always act like this is just your house. Maybe it's time you learned how it feels to lose it. That was it. I picked up the phone and called Ron. Get me out of this, I said. I don't care what it takes. We were done playing defense. It was time to fight back. Ron and I gathered every single piece of evidence we had. The forged will, bank statements showing money transfers, police reports, the false pregnancy test, photos of the stove incident, threat letters from her lawyer. Ron even brought in a private investigator who found two of Mark's old victims. Both had lost thousands to fake online investment scams. They agreed to testify, but the final blow, Cynthia's journal, she left it in the laundry room one morning, tucked behind the detergent. I shouldn't have read it, but I did. Page after page filled with her own words. Just wait. Once the house sells, I'm out. Playing the long game. He's too old to stop me. Mark says keep calm until we get what's mine. I made copies of everything. Then I called my lawyer and said, I want to sue them. For fraud, elder abuse, identity theft, and defamation. Court day came. Cynthia walked in looking pale and quiet. She tried to keep that innocent look on her face. Her lawyer kept calling her a vulnerable daughter manipulated by an aging parent. But we had the truth. First, we showed the forged will. The handwriting expert testified. His analysis was clear it wasn't my writing. Then we played video clips from the security camera. Mark was in my study, late at night, using my computer while I slept in the next room. You know what broke me the most? It wasn't the betrayal, it was hearing that recording. Mark, bragging on Discord about draining my accounts. She was in on it, he said casually. But Cynthia doesn't have the guts to do the dirty work. That moment crushed whatever little hope I had left for her. When I took the stand, I spoke the only way I knew how, calm, honest, and broken-hearted. I told the truth. Cynthia's lawyer tried to twist it all around. Did you ever yell at your daughter, Mr. Marston? Did you ever control her money to punish her? I didn't lie. I said, I tried to protect her. Even when she didn't want it. My lawyer stood up, holding Cynthia's journal in his hand. He opened it, looked around the courtroom, and read aloud. She doesn't deserve it anyway. Dad's losing it. He won't even see it coming. Once the paperwork clears, I'll change the locks. Silence. You could hear a pin drop. I glanced at the judge. His face told me everything before he even spoke. He ruled in my favor. Every single count. Cynthia's lawsuit, dismissed with prejudice. The forged will, declared criminal evidence. The DA filed charges against Mark and added Cynthia as a co-conspirator. I was awarded full restitution over $90,000. That covered my legal fees, unfrozen accounts, identity protection, and damages for emotional distress. But I wasn't done. I kept my house. I didn't sell it. I remodeled every inch. The master bedroom, gutted and redone. Every wall Cynthia ever touched. Repainted. The fridge, replaced with a new one. But I kept that one thing, the label she once slapped on it. Don't touch what you didn't pay for, boomer. Asterisk. I framed it. It hangs above my new fridge like a badge of what I survived. Mark. He was sentenced to 5 years in a medium security prison in Arkansas. The judge called him a thief hiding behind buzzwords and cheap tricks. I heard he tried scamming an inmate and got beat up his first week. Cynthia, she took a plea deal, avoided prison, but got 2 years of probation and 500 hours of community service. Her name was dragged across the local news. She lost her job. No one in her field wants to work with her now. I haven't heard from her in months, until one day. I found a letter in my mailbox. No return address. Her handwriting. I thought I was smarter than you. I was wrong. I hope one day you forgive me. I'm not asking for anything. Just wanted to say it. I never replied. As for me, I closed the auto shop. Retired. Finally. Bought a little fishing boat. Most mornings, I'm out on the lake, peaceful, quiet, mine. I see my friends, go to church, and I no longer walk on eggshells in my own home. And sometimes, when I open that fridge, I look at that framed label. It doesn't make me angry anymore. It reminds me why you must never let people, family, or not cross too many lines. If this story moved you, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Your support helps us bring more powerful, real stories like this one to life.